Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today another detailed forecast update coming your way. We're going to be talking about some severe weather that's lashing Tasmania throughout the course of today. We'll also talk about some tropical rainfall that's expected to fire up across Western Australia and the Northern Territory, which could lead to a severe thunderstorm outbreak across a large portion of the nation into New South Wales. And all of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Your support lately has been greatly appreciated. We're going to move down into Tasmania now and start things off talking about the severe weather that's currently impacting the state there. And you can see from the wind observations on this map that we already are starting to see some pretty significant storm fronts start to move through. Gaffs Hill, the windiest place, winds sustained 91 kilometres an hour, gusting up to 100, so it is quite gusty across parts of southern Tasmania. Also down towards Mad Cyclone Island, winds of 80 kilometres an hour, Low Rocky Point nearly 80 kilometres an hour, so it's certainly starting to get quite blustery across the southern parts of the state as the main cold front approaches, which is this line of clouds and thunderstorms stretching along where the cursor is right now. And you can see it here on the radar imagery as this slowly loads in, that over the past hour we've really started to see this cold front materialize on the radar imagery, and you can see it's just about to make its crossing of the coast down in the southwest wilderness region as this radar imagery very, very slowly loads in. The risks with this initial cold front is, of course, the damaging winds and isolated pockets of heavy rainfall. I'm not expecting anything too significant on the rainfall front, but certainly wind gusts up to 125 kilometres an hour. There is a severe weather warning current as well for the entirety of the west coast and the north, and I believe it's also active for central parts of Tasmania and into the alpine areas of Victoria and the southern coasts of Victoria as well. And this is for the gusty winds that's going to be coming through from this preliminary cold front. However, behind it is also something that I'm watching quite closely. All of these clouds and cloud-like activities that's moving through the Tasman Sea, or moving towards the Tasman Sea at this time in Tasmania as a state. This has some pretty nasty shower activity in it, and that's going to mean damaging winds, isolated pockets of heavy rainfall, and considering the cold temperatures on the backside of this front, we're going to also be talking about snow down to low elevations. It's going to be an early maximum, of course, across Tasmania throughout the course of today as well, just with this cold front moving through. Not expecting temperatures to rise above 5 degrees for much of the more mountainous areas of the state, and I don't think temperatures will rise much above 12 or 13, early double digits for big communities such as Launceston and Hobart. And you can see it here on the model forecast as this moves through here, that the snow level does drop quite substantially, and you can see snow expected down to about 200 or 300 metres later on this afternoon from this weather event. It's going to be a nasty cold front as it moves through, and it really does show with this forecast here, with the winds expected to be very high across much of Tasmania as well throughout the remainder of today, probably peaking around lunchtime or later on in the lunchtime sort of time zone, before the weather conditions do slowly start to ease later on tonight into early tomorrow morning. However, for Tasmania, the severe weather threat is not over. Let me tell you, there's going to be just more cold fronts and shower activities streaming ashore from the roaring 40s belt that's going to be really active over the coming couple of days. The cold front expected Friday afternoon, another one expected Sunday morning, and it's just going to be showers and the odd storm right through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and into early Wednesday morning, when it should slowly start to ease off. And we'll talk about what's expected after Wednesday in the later part of this video. But yeah, certainly some pretty nasty weather coming in for Tasmania over the next couple of days, and you can see it here on the rainfall forecast here. Over the next 5 or 6 days, we are expecting a pretty high amount of rainfall, especially for this time of the year along the west coast. 5-day rainfall accumulations topping out at about 110 millimetres around Rosebery and Queenstown. In fact, slightly higher if you take a look at the Axis G3 model here, up to 170 millimetres of the stuff. So certainly some pretty high accumulations look likely at this time into the southwest wilderness region and into the more centralised mountainous area around Lake St. Clair National Park. The East Coast, however, is going to miss out on pretty much all of the rainfall. Hobart not expecting pretty much anything, just a couple of millimetres there. Same story for Launceston and up towards Scottsdale in the Ben Lomond National Park. There will be a little bit of rainfall, but nothing in comparison to what the West Coast is expecting to receive. And that is just a testament to the forecast, where we're just expecting showery crap to be streaming ashore over the next 5 days. And yeah, that will be coupled with a pretty significant wind threat as well. The majority of the dangerous wind gusts gusts will be occurring throughout the course of today, but just with the passage of these weather systems, I'd not be surprised if we saw wind gusts over the next 5 days top out at about 130, potentially 140 kilometres an hour down at Matsika Island. And if you do live in a zone that's expecting wind gusts in excess of 100 kilometres an hour, basically anywhere along the coastline, along the west coast, including Strawn, then across towards some of the more mountainous areas and exposed mountainous locations across Tasmania, these wind gusts could cause some pretty significant damage to homes and property and infrastructure on your property. But yeah, that's certainly enough of the winter weather and the Tasmania weather scene. There is some severe weather going on, but it isn't totally unusual for this time of the year. In fact, it is pretty normal for this time of the year. What isn't normal for this time of the year is what we're about to talk about right now, and it isn't winds, it is rain. Take a look at the rainfall forecast now. You can see a low pressure system already starting to develop just south of Bali and Denpasar on the Indonesian islands, and that's expected to wrap itself up over the coming couple of days and turn into a bit of a rainmaker. And when I say a bit of a rainmaker, I mean a lot of a rainmaker across parts of Western Australia's Kimberley region. From Friday afternoon onwards, we're going to be seeing showers and thunderstorms develop along the Pilbara coastline between Onslow up to Port Hedland. We're also expecting showers and thunderstorms to develop in the Kimberley, north of a line of Fitzroy crossing across to about Halls Creek and Kununurra. Showers and thunderstorms will be very prevalent across the northern parts of the Kimberley region and parts of the Pilbara region on Saturday afternoon as well. And I've said this for the last couple of days. If you are a storm chaser up there, it might be a good idea to just dust off the car and get out there, chase a couple of thunderstorms throughout Saturday afternoon and early evening. It's going to be great chasing conditions. A lot of pulse thunderstorms expected, especially once you get around, I believe it's still Great Northern Highway up there between Fitzroy crossing up towards Halls Creek. Sort of somewhere around here we are expecting a pretty widespread expanse of pulse thunderstorms, some of which could turn severe with heavy rainfall, and they're going to be long-lived as well. Doesn't look like they just fire up and collapse in on themselves. It looks like they're going to be lasting for a good couple of hours, potentially 6 to 8 hours. So it definitely looks like a pretty good chasing event, a great chasing opportunity as well. And you'll lead very nicely on into Sunday afternoon when we're expecting more thunderstorms and some pretty significant ones to fire up across the northern parts of Western Australia, associated with a monsoon trough that's expected to dip down to about Exmouth and Carnarvon in terms of latitude. And that's going to bring rain as through Karanjini down to about Mount Augusta sort of area and potentially even further south as well. Communities such as Murchison and Meekatharra could also receive a couple of drops of rainfall by Sunday afternoon. So it certainly does look like it is going to be a wet weekend for parts of the Kimberley, the Pilbara, and even pockets of the Gascoyne. The rainfall continues, especially throughout the Kimberley region on Sunday and Monday. These thunderstorms look very prevalent across northern parts of the West Australian state, and they don't look like they've got any plans on moving at all associated with this low pressure system that's going to deepen and move further inland throughout Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be a strong one, and it's going to dump a lot of rainfall as well. The low pressure system gets itself over about Warburton area by Tuesday, the 24th of September. On the back side of it, swings up a bunch of moisture from the Great Australian Bight, and that could promote some showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Goldfields region by Tuesday morning, right through Tuesday and Wednesday. But it's also going to sweep in a lot of moisture and convective activity from the northern Indian Ocean across the Kimberley and the north interior region of Western Australia and into the Northern Territory as well, and promote a bit of a rain event throughout Tuesday and Wednesday through central parts of the nation. Before this rainfall event, the associated low pressure systems move into New South Wales, which is a forecast that I want to get to a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, in terms of rainfall, this does look like a pretty good rainfall event across parts of central Western Australia, and from Friday afternoon onwards right through to Wednesday the 25th of September, when these thunderstorms are finally expected to clear out of Western Australia and the Northern Territory, we've got a boatload of rainfall now on the forecast. The forecast actually has not changed one bit from yesterday, pretty much, from the eastern WF side of things, and the axis G3 has only shifted to be more sort of supportive of the eastern WF solution, which means that what we're looking at now is a very likely and a very plausible rainfall forecast for much of Western Australia, the Northern Territory and South Australia over the next 6 days. In terms of peak rainfall accumulations, talking about up to 150 millimetres outside of Halls Creek and Balgo, probably around Kuakara, that sort of area. The highest accumulations will be around Fitzroy crossing Halls Creek down to about Balgo, and maybe as far south as Warburton as well. We'll be seeing accumulations up to 50 millimetres, but this general area of very remote Western Australia, where there's very few people expecting the highest of the accumulations here, and there is a good chance that these accumulations or these rainfall accumulations do lead to flooding of some sort. whether it's riverine flooding, I'm not expecting anything above the minor river flooding. I mean, it is the first rainfall of the year, and let's face it, 150 millimetres up there is not too much rainfall. It is a lot of rainfall for this time of the year, but if we're talking about this in March or April, it might not even be able to make the video. It just would be that insignificant on the forecast. Certainly the chance of some road damage, however, just with heavy thunderstorms, we could be seeing washouts, so take extra care if you are on the roads up there in a chase vehicle, and if you are travelling through parts of northern Western Australia, then just make sure you are taking extra care on the roads. Not only will they be very slidey, but after this weather event, they could be in a bit of disrepair as well. Rainfall expected to go as far south as Mount Magnet, Sandstone, across to Leinster, including communities such as Kew, Meekatharra and Walloona in the Goldfields and the Murchison region. We're also expecting rainfall around Gascoyne Junction across to Lyndon as well. I reckon the rainfall will kind of stop around Mount Augusta sort of area. It's not expected to get itself any further south or southwest of that rather, and I think the coast between Exmouth right down towards Geraldton will miss out on the rainfall, but there could be some good falls between, like I said, Onslow up towards Port Hedland, and then from Port Hedland to Broome later on in the forecast period we could be seeing some decent rainfall accumulations there. Overall, looking very healthy for rainfall lovers, that's for sure. A big swathe of Western Australia are expecting some pretty decent accumulations. And to finish off this video, we're going to talk about the rainfall that's expected later on in the forecast period. 3-day rainfall accumulations now looking pretty healthy across parts of New South Wales and Victoria, and that's all going to be powered by what we thought yesterday would pipe up to be an east coast low, but from Wednesday onwards we're expecting a bit of a severe thunderstorm outbreak powered by this low pressure system. So Thursday the 26th of September we get a low pressure system developing across central parts of New South Wales, specifically around Hay and Griffith, close to the New South Wales-Victoria border, and this promotes thunderstorms and a lot of moisture sweeping in from Queensland into the northern parts of New South Wales. And just considering the temperatures and the amount of available energy in the atmosphere for thunderstorms, I think there is a good chance of seeing a bit of a thunderstorm outbreak throughout Thursday and Friday if this forecast does come to fruition and we don't see any major changes with the development of these low pressure systems. Just to extrapolate this forecast, it looks like we're going to be seeing a bit of a rainfall event slide down the New South Wales coastline as well, but that's much later on into the forecast period towards the end of September. So again, I'd take this with a very heavy pinch of salt, and considering the GFS model doesn't expect anything kind of that magnitude to be saying to happen, they're only expecting the sort of severe thunderstorm outbreak across New South Wales and Victoria and Queensland rather on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday of next week. They're not calling for any rain-making event. I would take that with forecast with a pretty heavy pinch of salt. The Axis G3 has a completely different solution in mind as well from this forecast here, and I'm just showing you this to give you a scope of understanding that there is a lot of uncertainty with this thunderstorm forecast that I'm about to give, but the Axis G3 generally is a pretty unreliable model when you're talking about 5 to 10 days in advance. But yeah, let's just pull it back to Thursday evening. You can see we're expecting thunderstorms to fire up across central and western Queensland. We're also expecting thunderstorms to fire up across the southern half of New South Wales, especially into the southeastern corner around Canberra, Orange and up towards Dubbo. And then by Friday morning we're seeing some pretty significant thunderstorms fire up across more central parts of Queensland down to the southern Queensland and into northeastern New South Wales, and they could promote some pretty heavy rainfall accumulations. And just take a look at this here, rainfall accumulations from Wednesday right through to the end of the forecast period, the end of Saturday afternoon. We are expecting some pretty significant falls to fall across parts of New South Wales and into Victoria. Peak accumulations in Victoria will be about 100 millimetres outside of Sale and Burnsdale in the Gippsland region, up to 120 millimetres expected there on the forecast. Again, I think that's possible, but it will probably happen in a very different fashion to what this forecast is saying. Some good accumulations expected around Canberra as well. They're expecting about 70 millimetres, and the majority of that will be from rainfall, but we could get a bit of a dusting of rainfall up there from thunderstorms. Some good rainfall outside of Narooma down towards Mallacoota, up to about 150 millimetres of the stuff there. The majority of that will be just steady rainfall, and then thunderstorms up in the southern parts of Queensland into the northeastern corner of New South Wales could dump up to 50 millimetres of very hit and miss rainfall. I mean, just take a look at this forecast here. The rainfall models are making Australia look like Swiss cheese by this forecast here, so that just gives you an idea that we are expecting very hit and miss rainfall. I mean, it is from thunderstorms, and severe thunderstorms at that. They are very unpredictable, and the fact that we're making a forecast or able to make a reliable forecast 7 days in advance is just a testament to how reliable some of this model technology can be. But again, the details can and they will change. There is what you're seeing on this forecast here, especially from Thunderstorms, which means the rainfall forecast in southern Queensland is going to change, and it will change dramatically, both in terms of amounts and location. I'd be very surprised if this stuck with any sort of consistency over the next 5 days. So again, make sure you're checking back every day just to make sure you've got the most accurate and up-to-date forecast. But yeah, in terms of rainfall for much of Australia as well, basically with the exception of far north Queensland, the rainfall up there seems to have withered away now for the next week or so, is looking really healthy, especially into Western Australia, parts of the Northern Territory, South Australia and New South Wales. This is the start of the wet season, and it's very exciting to see this on the forecast for rain lovers. It's an early start, especially for Western Australia. I do still believe that we are going to have dry periods. Once this wet phase ends, we'll definitely have 2 or 3 weeks of dry weather after that. It's not going to be just an onslaught of rainfall from now on, but this is definitely the start of what we would like to see for a wet season forecast. So it is starting to get quite close now, and you've only got a couple more months to really, or a couple more weeks rather, to really prepare for those flooding rainfalls that are going to start to kick off late October for Queensland, early November for the Northern Territory, and late November for Western Australia. So get ready, because showers, thunderstorms and heavy rainfall, they're just around the corner for the northern parts of Australia. It's been a bit of a long-winded forecast update, especially compared to the recent ones. We've covered a lot of ground in this forecast update as well. If you have enjoyed the video, then please consider leaving a like and also subscribe if you haven't already. We're nearing in on 20,000, so we're trying to hit that by the end of the year. Any support does help, and any support is much appreciated. That is all from me today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Could not run the show without them. Again, they're the reason why I've got access to all of this fancy software. That is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.